This is the engine bay inspection of the 2018 Jeep Wrangler. Right away, it has been somewhat detailed and clean. There's kind of some greasiness on it. There's always a concern if it's been washed or pressure washed. I don't like to see any sort of high pressure application of water or anything like that. This kind of grease over time will collect oils and dirt and things like that, so it looks good for a little while, but eventually it'll really start fouling and creating this kind of gross kind of sheen on everything. So from a technician or mechanic's point of view, we don't like to see that. Otherwise, the engine bay does come back with a clean bill of health, with the exception of significant amount of aftermarket wiring related to probably all this kit and caboodle up front. However, it does appear properly installed. You do see fusing, inline fusing, heat shrink, marine heat shrink, conduit, electrical taping. So the install is professional. There's a lot going on here. As the vehicle ages, if there's any issues with wiring, you can see parasitic draws or blown fuses from other systems, depending. Now, most of it seems to be slaved off the battery, which for high amperage applications is acceptable. But this will just keep an eye on this. Anywhere things that might route around can cause water intrusion, can be pathways for debris and things like that. So otherwise, there's no real rust. There's no rust at all in here. There's no damage, no signs of leaks. All the fluids came back good. Everything looks like it should. The power steering is a little bit dark. I imagine with all the force that the wheels are applying to the power steering rack, it's going to run a little bit hot. I would just kind of stay on the fluid and get that changed under kind of a severe service schedule rather than a regular service schedule. Not smelling any exhaust leaks, not seeing any flash rusting even down in the catalytic converters down here. That shininess you can just barely see is the catalytic converter, the manifold 2 upper cap and the upstream oxygen air fuel sensor. So no flash oxidation too bad on the PCM here. So the engine bay largely has been kept nice, high and dry and not been abused. So the engine bay gets a pass, thank you. Is the exterior inspection of the 2018 Jeep Wrangler. So what I'm looking for, we're starting quarter panel fender up. I'm looking for misalignment of paneling because I can see a lot of the frame, the body on frame situation here. I'm looking for underbody damage along with exterior, paneling, maybe a misfitment of a component, maybe witness marks. So we've got, like, in a good example here is we've got bushings in here that mount the body to the frame, and if that's shifted, damaged, if this kind of mount's moved around, tweaked, I'd watch for that. Collision damage, things like that can be kind of hard to repair unless you're a very experienced welder or collision repair. So looking for any tweaks and things like that. But we're going to follow the vehicle back. I'm looking for ill fitment of panels, A-pillar to the door, looking for things out of square or true. Like if this had been pushed back, this would be kind of filled in here versus up here. This panel would slide back. So checking along the panel gaps here. We're going to walk the vehicle, walking back to B-pillar. B-pillar is good. C-pillar is good. Walking back to quarter panel. Looking for same deal, looking for fitment issues here. That's good. We're going to pull the tire out of the way. So same deal, checking fitment here, following around. Fitment for paneling here is good. The bumpers are not plastic, not typically they're bumper covers on most vehicles. These are, been modified. They're big, heavy steel ones. So I've tugged on these. There's nothing about them loose. They're so heavy that if they were, you'd hear that in the cabin, kind of bounce around and clanking around. Same deal, looking under here, following the frame around. There is a bit of very mild rust that's starting to get. This is a box frame. I'd keep an eye in these little gaps in here. As debris gets in here, anything like that, it can build up salt, rust, and start to erode in the frame. I'm curious as to why this was left open from factory. I would ideally want to box it. Maybe it is for ventilation, but I wouldn't want to put it right next to a tire. I'd put it somewhere else, maybe the inside or other side of the, less away from spray or things like that. So very minor amount of rust in there, but I can see a little bit. No cause for concern at this time. I have checked all the wheels, all 5 wheels. They're all in very good condition. Looks like it's got new rubber on it. Not seeing significant wear, like alignment issues in terms of toe or anything like their excessive camber. The vehicle, obviously visually, you can see it doesn't have an issue really with major camber. You can only see down to a certain degree. Beyond that, you need a machine. We're walking the vehicle. There is some missing. Maybe there was a rocker panel here installed at one point on both sides. There's some witness marks right here. Maybe somebody's taken a panel off or something like that. rocker boards or some kind of aesthetic component there been removed. Same deal following quarter panels, following doors, B pillar, square, good and true. A pillar, excuse me, square, good and true. Looking for the gap here, same deal if this was pushed in. Moving to the front, not seeing, looking in the gap right there on the frame, not seeing any issues there. Now, I'd like to note that we can see that there's been some spray done in here. Now, is that factory or is that aftermarket? I don't see a lot of this on a factory level. You know, the frame is sprayed all at one time, and then features are added or componentry is added. So I would like to assume that this is probably aftermarket, so this frame may have been sprayed. We're going to, I saw another example of that, but we're going to conclude that on the underbody. So look, following this frame around, I'm going to assume this frame got a treatment post-factory. Might be for anti-rust, might be for cosmetic. Not seeing any issues under here with structural issues, but I do believe the frame has been sprayed. Moving around the front, same deal. The front accoutrement is all attached and it's tight, so there's no concerns here. Finding the winch. To be honest, I'm not too familiar with these because I don't do a lot of inspections on these kinds of vehicles. Mostly they are, you know, stock vehicles and cars and things like that. So I do know that some of these winches you need to pull directly from battery power. Some of them will be wired directly into battery power. Some of them will have like a accessory. You can put power out of an accessory, or you can add power directly to the motor, so on and so forth. So, but let's see, walking the other vehicle, walking around the front. So yeah, I'll include some more. There is some stuff I'd like to include in the underbody. Otherwise, exterior gets a pass. Thank you very much. Okay, here's the underbody inspection of the 2018 Wrangler. I have to say it is a pleasure to be able to see everything under the vehicle. We're going to start the front left passenger and work our way back. Right away, there is some kind of surface rust on the seal housing for the differential, the front pumpkin right there. You can kind of see it on the pinion flange, right behind the pinion flange, and following down the yoke to the axle, following back. Now, whoever did the lift kit on this did it correctly. They pivoted the front and rear axles in line with the transfer case so that they could compensate for the lift, so they didn't put a whole bunch of pressure on the U-joints down there and the flanges and such. So right away, I'm pleased to see that. You don't always see that. It gives me a sign that the vehicle has a professional install. Same deal with the back differential. The drive shaft is a little bit flash rusted. That's not a cause for concern. I would just keep an eye on it. Nothing seems to be significantly built up on it. We're checking for, it looks like evaporative emissions. That looks good. Checking, I can look all the way to the other side. The fuel tank is fine. The shielding is fine. The straps are fine. We're gonna go walk around the back. So checking under here. Now, what I did want to bring up is the front and rear diffs both look like they've had in the past some significant amounts of rust, whether on the plate itself, the diff cover, or on the casing itself. It's very pockmarked, very thick. You know, unless the casting was really terrible from factory, that makes me think that this is like a paint over rust scenario where whether this differential was swapped in, which doesn't necessarily need to be a concern, but again, there's lots of aftermarket stuff going on here, so I would again just keep an eye on that. You know, thick kind of paint over rust, or you know, lacquers and things can kind of hide some kind of rot underneath. So again, I would just keep an eye on this casing. Now the diff cases are really thick, so I wouldn't sweat those too much. Again, it's easy to see. I would just peek under it every once in a while. Moving to the right rear, checking out control arms, frame. So I am getting the impression, I do believe this frame was painted, coated. I don't think it was factory. I documented a little bit of that in the exterior inspection. There's some kind of rusting on the mount from the body to bushing for the frame, kind of on the standoff right there. You can kind of see. So walk in the front of the vehicle. Let's see. Front looks good. No leaks. Oil pan's good. Upper oil pan's good. So that's service and upper. No rear main leaks. No transmission. Nice and dry. Nice to see that. Chrysler products tend to come to me pretty wet, so it's nice to see that this is nice and sealed up and dry. So as a whole, the underbody gets a pass. So thank you very much. Okay, this is the interior inspection of the 2018 Jeep Wrangler. Right away, we got seat covers in here. Now, I did kind of pull them back and peek under here and see what I could see. They're fairly nice looking seat covers, excuse me. They're fairly nice looking seat covers. I'm not seeing any damage or stains underneath them. I did check front and rear. It kind of seems to be more like they added them as an after effect because they're leather rather than if you have mud on you versus cloth. So, you know, stains will run down in these little cracks and stuff. So if you pull these back and look down in there, you'd see stuff that otherwise maybe a cheap detail wouldn't catch. I'm not seeing any of that. So that's the rear of the vehicle. All the components are here. Doors are fully assembled. There's no damage to the straps. The retainer straps right here to keep the doors from flying open. Moving to the front. Same deal here, seat covers, didn't find any sort of what I could kind of peel back. These are a lot more secure than the rear seats. You know, high quality seat covers, they feel very secure. And again, I didn't find anything about them underneath or what I could peel back that implied that there was a lot of, you know, grossness going on under there. Front two seats are complete, dash is complete, infotainment works. I will just, you know, point to them. I would put on the road test, but four-wheel drive does work. High-low, all works as it should. Lockup is perfectly fine. All the driver-facing instrumentation systems work fine. The infotainment works fine. Everything's complete. The Jesus handles work fine. So everything in here, it looks good, looks clean. It's going to get a pass. The exception is that there is this little hole here. The prospective buyer had asked to confirm why the front lights wouldn't come on. I suspect that maybe there's a switch that might have been pushed. And I've been all over this interior and under the hood, and I could not find a switch that would control the external off-road lamps out there. So I'm wondering if that's got pushed in here, or maybe there's an issue. I've seen this before. If there's a lot of powerful draw off of the alternator, the battery that's pulling down the lights, or there's maybe heat related issues with the wiring, I've seen where these will be disabled. So time and time again, I've gotten in vehicles where they've had set PIA headlights, aftermarket headlights, and there will have been a switch, but it's either removed or inoperable. It'll just have been disabled. Or if I get under the dash, the switch might be there as a placeholder, but nothing is connected to it. And if you close the switch, it'll activate the lights. So I suspect that that's what that is, because I couldn't find it anywhere else. So otherwise, the interior gets a pass. Thank you very much. This is the trunk inspection of the 2018 Jeep Wrangler. From what I could tell, it is complete. There's not a mat back here. I cannot tell you. Sometimes they come stock, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're rubberized, sometimes they're not. There's not a mat back here. What I would inspect, we'll lean up here, what I would inspect is any sort of rust or flash oxidation or spillage on any of these bolts. If I can see it, I'm gonna look at it. So we're inspecting under here to see if milkshake's gotten down here, French fries, things like that. Overall kind of maybe neglect of the vehicle. I'm not seeing that. I can peek all the way down under the seats, not seeing any dirt, debris, and things like that that could be missed on a detail. Moving back, checking under here, couldn't tell you what those are, but there's a little bit of storage cubby. We don't go much deeper than this. If I have to disassemble something, that's where I stop. However, I pull this panel up. There's some kind of fine powder, kind of flash rusting in here. I would keep an eye on that. It's documented in the inspection sheet. I would suspect that it comes from this kind of pressure seal that runs along this upper glass, because it does not have its own retainment. It relies, it's kind of just free floating. It relies on the latch of the lower door. So this pressure on here, if water or moisture can make its way around there and maybe kind of run down the metal and kind of find its way down around into here, that's where that water is going to go. Or if it might follow track down into here. So more than likely, if it is a problem, it's going to be something in heavy rain or significant, or maybe car washes. I'd pay attention to that. My recommendation is go through a car wash, hit it with a power washer, hose, and then lift this up immediately after and see if the water has made its way down in there, because there's a significant amount of kind of surface flash rusting in there. So it means high moisture contents got back in here at some time. So I'd keep an eye on that. Otherwise, the interior of the trunk does come back clean and complete. So I am going to go ahead and give it a pass at this time, with just the exception that be monitored. Thank you. Okay, this is the code scan video. Well, I would have a code scan video for this inspection, but the issue is that FCA, Chrysler, Stellantis, pick whichever one you want. They have found a way kind of a legal loophole to prevent third party or private mechanics, technicians, inspectors, so on and so forth, of accessing their OBD2 systems through a kind of a paywall slash tech wall. And what it is exactly at 2018, you have to pay for access to their secure gateway service or network linking in order to get into the gateways and network of the vehicle. So it's a rather expensive piece of software. It's a subscription-based software, and it's not something that is. It's truly, frankly, it's pretty unaffordable. You also have to use specific scan tools. Now I'll tell you, this is quite an expensive scan tool. It wasn't cheap, and I'm unable to get into any of the modules. I am able to report to you, unfortunately, only what any driver could see is that the dash is clear. On the highway drive, we didn't kick any check engine lights. I'd be watching for P0420, catalyst system and efficiency codes, stumbling under load, falling on its face, watching for drawdown from power steering, like the throttle position. The throttle can't manage idle air control while features are turned on and off. So from an intuitive sense and from a skilled, experienced sense, I am watching for fuel air issues and symptoms like that, but I can't physically pull live data and check scans and see if there's anything stored. The good news is the computer, typically you're not going to see a check engine light unless the computers are really concerned. So there may be some small codes in here. A lot of times I see dead batteries from telematics units. That's like the SIM card in here that keeps control of nav and things like that. But until something gets really serious, it's not going to pop on the dash. So like I said, I was watching for idle sagging, stumbling, things like that. If you full lock the steering left and right, you're loading down the power steering, and there's a pressure switch that reports to the computer to let the computer know that there's increased load, and then the throttle's adjusted for that. So I'm watching for all those things. So there is no immediate sense that anything is wrong with the general fuel air powertrain control systems or things like that. But unfortunately, yes, I'm not able to scan into it because of the tech walls and paywalls that Stellantis and FCA has lobbied to be able to keep technicians and things out of their OBD2 systems. This is intentional. They're wanting to push all their maintenance and all their over to the dealer. They don't want third-party technicians working on it. You can buy the software, but it's one more layer. So what that does is it pushes technicians, inspectors, mechanics, and so on and so forth to just maybe start declining the work, or they're going to increase the cost of labor to the customer. So that's something to consider, is that the vehicle were to go into a shop. Not always, but you might see increased labor and kind of wonder why. Well, they have to pay for that software, or they have to pay for a specific scan tool that will only work for Jeep or Chrysler or Dodge. So just something to be aware of on these vehicles, 2018 and newer. Otherwise, on a technicality, I can't pass the code scan because I wasn't able to scan, but I don't have any concerns over the fact that I couldn't code scan in terms of PCM, TCM, ABS, SRS, all the modules that would concern me with the Christmas tree setup, if lit up like a Christmas tree on the dash. So otherwise, let's go with code scan gets a pass. Thank you. Okay, this is the conclusions video for the 2018 Jeep Wrangler. We'll go over a couple of things we found. Everything was fairly minor. I'd want to keep an eye on any of the underside paint or the paint over rust that's going on under here. The front and rear diff covers, pay attention to those. Pay attention to any of the any flash rusting that's going on in the box frame and in the frame back here. Pay attention to the moisture, the intrusion, water intrusion, moisture intrusion into the rear cubby hole. The vehicle does pull to the left pretty much at any speed. If you let go of the steering wheel, it's going to pull to the left. The prospective buyer did advise that that was documented, and that there may be some issues with control arms and alignment issues with the vehicle. Advise that this vehicle goes to a specialty alignment shop that deals in lifted vehicles or just does alignments. They seem to get the best results on that. Let's see, the vehicle handles, and other than the pulling to the left, there is no high-speed vibrations. The wheels are balanced very well for their size. The tail does wag the dog here. You can feel the weight of the wheels kind of doing their own thing when you go around corners and at high-speed lane changes. So just be aware of that if that's a safety concern in terms of handling on high-speed highway travel, things like that. I was unable to get the off-road system, the lights to work. That was documented in the interior inspection. the code scan was documented as well. So other than the very minor things that was documented with this vehicle to be aware of, the vehicle does get a pass. No exterior concerns, very minor underbody concerns, no interior concerns. Code scan concern was documented but got a pass. No engine bay concerns, and no drivability concerns other than the alignment. So thank you very much.